Hey everybody, welcome back to Trading ThinkScript. My name is Mike Fairborn, Senior Manager Trading and Derivatives at Charles Schwab. Hey, today I want to take a look a little bit deeper into that other dimension that we had been talking about, as it might relate to the super trend, and that is volume specifically. I want to talk about specifically volume waves that tie in with the price action that we've been reviewing as of late. A lot of traders might look for confirmatory sort of signs or additional indications for volume strength relative to the breakout, relative to the pullback. Are we getting more volume or less volume? Good news is we've got a great indicator to help us with that today. It is a Think script, so we'll dive into more details on that. Folks, I am joined in the chat by my friend and manager, Scott Thompson. You see him in the chat as ST. Great to have Scott here on board with us. In addition to day two, I just wanted to state there had been some requests about a look back period. I did get that look back period added to our super trend scan from last week. So it's not just giving us those days specifically. I'll go through the details and explain what's going on so that you could do other sorts of scans with a similar look back periods as well. So we'll address that code, what it took to do that. But we'll definitely go through that and we'll share it at the end as well. But it is good to have you all on board. Hello to you, Will. Hello, hello, hello to you, Mike, Austin. We've got Equity on board. I'm not familiar with Equity. Good to have you here. If you are here for the first time, let us know. Where we do talk in this class about Think scripts, we do take topic requests. We've addressed a number of those. It's really quite fun when you're looking to develop customized scans to kind of help find, really help you find what you want, and oftentimes very quickly, is what you'll find in this class for those of you that are new. Hello to you, Rojo. Please give Scott and I a follow on X. Scott Thompson, CS, Mike Fairborn, CS. And love to have you there. Hello to you, Marion, as well as Wiley and Riceberg. Okay, and AK as well. All right, well, with that, let's hit some disclosure items to get going here. Information here is for general information purposes only. Paper Money software application also for, its application is provided for educational purposes only. Backtesting results that we do review pretty frequently in this class. They are hypothetical. There's no guarantee that the same strategy implemented today would produce similar results going forward. Remember, the market's an open system, right? New information coming in. A lot of times the markets do they look similar, right? Trends and price patterns. Of course, that's how we recognize price patterns. But at the end of the day, they're different, and that denotes that. Investing involves risk, including for some products more than your initial investment. Now, past performance of any security strategy does not guarantee future results or success. A quick look at our futures disclosures down there. We do not trade futures in this class, but we do look at the charts. So just quickly wanted to state futures and futures options trading does involve substantial risk, and it is not suitable for all investors. All righty. Well, are we ready to get going here? Let's go. Oh, by the way, there is just a quick question coming through. Yeah. Quick question I put on the survey. Oh, yes. I do get those results, and I have been accumulating those. So we do go through them. So great. And that's a great place, by the way. I'm glad you brought that point up. In case there ever is a survey specifically for this class, you can do that. By the way, at the end of our discussion, too, on the recorded session of this class, down below, there are some comments that you can make in YouTube. We address those as well. I've gotten a number of topic requests from there as well, and I'll generally get those. I mean, just like right after the next day, I'll definitely see those questions. So keep that in mind as well. All right. Well, with that, we were down today. It didn't last very long. And sometimes when you are in a really strong bull market, it might not last very long. And by the way, we are over here. Let me just adjust this real quick. I'm in percentages. I'll just quickly adjust this. The reason why we will go through and look at the markets is because they can be helpful in also helping us understand the kind of trend we are in. Is it going to be a bull market, a bear market? Clearly here, and utilizing some of the tools that my manager Scott gave me actually for market posture, which I do use, by the way, in the markets and sectors class each week and that's tomorrow on Fridays. How is the market doing? How are we holding above our moving averages? Just a quick glance at that. I've got it right here too. So this is the one that I utilized from Scott. I found it to be very helpful and effective. We talk about it a lot in this class, but It's just a simple check. Where are we at? And by the way, when we earlier in this year, we were getting signs of weakness and weakness again over here. But from that point in time, we've been up. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because do we look at bullish type setups or bearish? This can just be a quick guide. It's just 50 times 2 is 100 times 2 again, giving us kind of like a shorter term to intermediate term, definitely intermediate, and then definitely more of a longer term, the blue there as our 200-day. But that's the market, a lot of strength, and a lot of that, by the way, and you probably don't need me to tell you this. In fact, I'm sure you don't, but it has been driven by technology type stocks. More on those details tomorrow as we'll address other details in terms of markets and sector strength and what's moving and maybe some of the fundamental reasons behind it. But for now, we want to take a look at other areas. By the way, let's go into the super trend real quick so we can address this now. And what I wanted to do with that is just pull up any old stock. Why? Wow, we've got a big mover there. Let's go ahead and just go over here. And I wanted to point this out, highlight it really quickly on that. Oh, there's the futures. That's okay. We can show futures charts here. But that was saved. Let's just go back into an AMD because I did want to take a look at the look back period and why that was important. And let me adjust some of these indicators right now. Just get us back where we were. I could have kept that on, but that's okay. I've already taken them off. Super trend, I might pull them up later, but here we go. Here is that super trend. Again, that code from Mobius, we adapted that into a scan, but as we put this on right now, and let's do that again, make sure it's actually clicked. All right, so I'm showing clicked, I'm clicking OK, there we go. So taking a look again, utilizing those ATRs over a four period look back and going above the mid range of the bars, and you can see it really tries to wait for additional confirmation. You get a lot of these signals like we addressed last week, right? That are coming. A lot of times you'll see them come totally independent though of a breakout, but yet a lot of them do come near breakouts, although it's not looking at highs or anything. It's just looking at the general direction of the trend. Believe it or not, we've stayed in that uptrend. There has not been a signal to get out yet. And because it does give it that flexibility around that 4 ATR midpoint range. Okay, so we'll capture a lot of these moves. Now, one of the things with the scan that we did last week is it was just giving us this right there, just like a single 1 day. And the topic requests immediately came in to say, hey, we need a look back period on that. And I totally agreed. In fact, I was thinking about it right towards the end. And so let me just get into that right now. I'll load that up and so we could just have that. And let's talk through the code as well. So you have a general idea of what's going on there. Where are you? There you are. Here's the super trend with the look back period. I'll scan through it right now. I'll show you. Right now it's got a 3-day look back period. And we've had quite a few remember it does scan in the S&P 500 for that breakout, but that ATR breakout. But the key point here is the look back, and I'm going to show it to you right here. This is the only addition on top of the code that we did from last week, and it's just right here. Okay, and so what the focus is here on this code is just a look back, and you can change this. We've got a 3 period, so everything else is that Mobius code. In fact, I've got to give credit to him on here. I don't know why it's not showing. I'll put that on there and I'll put the adapted in here. Just give me a second to do that in just a moment here. But there you go. Just to look at the 3 period. If we want to look at 5 periods, meaning that we saw the super trend flip to green within 1 to 5 bars ago. Okay, the code that all we needed to really add in here, once we've defined the input in terms of look back, which is 3. So it's not 1 to 5. What we actually have here, put in whatever number you want, but it is 1, 2, or 3 days back, right? It could have happened today. It could have happened yesterday, the day before. Right now is what this list just gave us. Anytime we can utilize, and we've defined here what we're looking back, which is a look back, and we know what that is. The reason why we don't have to come back down here and change the number down here, it's easy to have an input, is because we've defined it as a look back. And the ThinkScript knows as we look back, what does the look back mean? Well, it's 3 right now, but if we change it to 5, it's just going to change it down here. It's just an easier way to put that code up there for us to look back. Okay. If we say greater than 1, excuse me, greater than 0, that's not a 1. But what I'm saying is it can be either what? 1, 2, up to our look back. It can be any of these, but it's got to be greater than the 0. That's what this does. Okay. And that is how it works. Let me just do one thing. I want to make sure I give, before I share this, that we give it the recognition from him. I'll just put adapted by myself in there as I'm adapting it to not just a scan, but also a look back. I'm just going to quickly copy this real quick off top and add it in. I did do it, but I didn't obviously save it. So just 1 second on that. By the way, any questions on that while we're looking at this? It should give us that look back though, and it will. I mean, it will give it to us. I went back and tested. In fact, let's just look at it real quick. But this is just addressing last week's topic. Hang on just a second. Almost ready to share this. With look back. Sorry, normally those will save, but I'll just click OK. And then what I'll do is I'll just come in here and just save it again. There you go. Okay. So let me share that though. Remember, ThinkScripts aren't guaranteed for timeliness or accuracy. Now, generally, we have good data on the platform. As long as the data is good, it should flow through fine. It's just a mathematical sort of a formula. But we wanted to state that for you. I'll share this right now, just so you guys have it. And there it is into the chat. So look back. So we're just super trend. I think this makes it a lot more useful because a lot of those super trends will break out. They'll come back down, but the signal has already taken place. And so that might happen over a 3 to 5 day time frame. You might want to extend it, but this is still on the S&P 500 over, as I noted here, 3 days. 3 days look back, okay? All righty. There you go. Now, just a quick note, because sometimes people are new, we share a lot of these. Take that script if you want to have it show up in the scan area, right? Just go into Open Shared Items, paste it in here, Control V or Command V in a Mac, hit Preview, and then you can import it. Just make sure you name it exactly what it is so you can recognize, you'll remember it, recognize it. You'll find it over here in that middle hamburger icon. Just go to Load, and that's exactly where we found this one. Okay, just right there. The look back. Okay, so there you go. But let's just confirm this look back here. So any of these that happened over that time frame, here's one right here. I just noticed it, an energy company. Oh, did it just happen now? It did. So is that within 1 to 3 days? Indeed it is. It is 1 to 3 days as it stands right now. That was one that we hadn't seen. How about BMY? This one has a little bit of a extended, possibly extended flag pattern over here, possibly just getting started off the bottom. Now, one of these you might want to wait for additional confirmation, but it's a big enough move to get above that ATR. There are other ways we can look at this, but that will certainly give you, the look back. Here's BKR, last one, just to confirm. Let's see if we can get one that's past 1 day, and we did. There you go. So here is BKR right there. This is actually one that we looked at in the swing trade class. You can kind of see the outline. Yeah, it goes up a little, you definitely see the outline. It goes up a little bit higher though. That is for your flag pattern. Flag, okay. Did it follow up? No, it didn't. It went down, but it might not be done yet. In fact, there might be a longer term flag in play. Question mark. We don't know, but that's a possibility. Okay, but notice it's just starting to show a little strength. So what some traders might do in this case, because we always said this, don't forget what we've learned in this class. We always need to remember what we've learned in terms of technical analysis, right? I mean, trend is up, but the one thing that traders might consider, break above a high. It certainly got that ATR. Something significant changed here. It changed again. I would actually say that a lot of this volatility right here is due to oil prices pushing that up and down. Anyhow, that's that. Let's take this off for now and let's talk about how we can merge in with this some volume. Oh, thanks, Scott. He's put in that playlist as well as the super trend from last week. Awesome. And there you go. You guys have the look back as well. Now, with this, what I wanted to do is talk about, in fact, we can just use this maybe as a, in fact, let's do this. I'm going to go back to a little bit longer, although I do like to zoom in on these a little bit here too. Um, I want to talk about volume because there's a component here. And by the way, these volume waves, the topic requests came in and said, Mike, can you just look through all of the Mobius stuff and just see if there's anything else in there that, that we think could be useful or whatever. And, those are just mostly just charts. I'm trying to adapt these to a scan so we can utilize that to try to find them. I think you kind of amplify the power of the code when you can actually go out and search across the, a particular universe of stocks just like that, which is, Thinkorswim platforms is so quick. So that's what I've done with a lot of those. And the one I did wanted to talk to you about is the concept of the wave volume. Let's put it on right now so you can see it. In fact, I'll put on a company here that did come up in the scan because we do have a working scan in here. And this is just the Mobius wave volume on the chart right now. This is another one we've got to highlight and show you now. This is fascinating what this is doing. And I'm going to tell you why I selected this, which might be different from why a whole host of other traders or investors might have selected it. I didn't see a description of what I'm about to tell you that this actually can do, what it can help with, that I think can be incredibly important when you're trying to gauge maybe the strength of a trend based on volume. 6 months, let's just narrow it down a little bit so we can keep eyes on this. Okay, I was going to look at, here's one that came up on the list. Okay, so as we look over here, I wanted to highlight it. Take a look at this with me. Now, a quick note is that anytime you see a move in prices, you see a trend coming up or whatever, you see a move coming down here. And then you see a subsequent move coming back up, right, with the trend. What this wave volume can do, this is the way I see it. Now, some would just say, hey, it gives us a sense that volume has begun to turn, that, to the bullish side. That's what some would say. Volume's turning, so price could turn too. Actually, the indicator is all based, when it turns green, it's based on a price action. It's not based on volume. I wanted to narrow this down just strictly on volume, to grab that whole separate dimension of price to tie it into the super trend. And so these both come from Mobius. And the fascinating thing is this is really turning, the volume's turning when the super trend is turning. Okay, that's when this comes across. Now, what makes this unique though? Let's get back to it. Here is a move up. We're gonna take a look at this range right over here, right over here. And I want to show you this one too, right after. We've got a bullish trend. I'm gonna put this in red for just price coming down. Okay, it's gonna get tipped off here because it's below, first of all, a midpoint range over a midpoint candle, okay, is what's going on here, but it's still using that same ATR. That's why it ticks down, okay, and you get the red starting right here. When it goes down, okay, we're watching when it comes up, and our eyes are focused on not up top necessarily. The top is our reference point, 100% for sure, but where we're focused in at is right down here in this range. We want to see what's going on over here. We want to watch this. And I kind of did that. Let me just go ahead and narrow it's right actually here. So here's the pullback that I was talking about. And that represents this move over here. I made that circle up top a little big. So let me just make sure we're on the same area here, because that's exactly where this signal would have triggered. Okay, so it's actually here. That's the pullback right here, and that's the move to the upside. Now, We're looking to see if it could continue. What this volume does, these volume waves, is when you're going down, it starts off with this volume, kind of similar to money flow. We've done some scripts on that, an on balance volume and Chaikin money flow too. But when it flips, it starts to add, add, add. In this case, it adds the volume. And what is this volume? The volume is, well, it's volume to the downside, but you can see it's coming up in red. So what does this volume look like coming down relative to the volume over here? Let me switch some colors. Relative to this volume going higher. Because, and I think this is kind of like sort of the hidden element of this whole concept here. It's not the timing as much as it is this. When you see this volume over here, the volume that's being accumulated as prices are going up, when that starts to exceed this high, you're getting more buyers over here than you were sellers. This can provide support to the trend. Okay, the scan that we've developed here, it says, let us know right when we cross the high red bar. As soon as we cross that high red bar, that shows us that on the downside over here, yes, because we have this negative, you could say negative volume over here, and we have positive volume on this side. When is it that the positive volume, right, is greater than the negative volume? That's what you're looking for. You know where it gets really, really weak is when the green over here just goes like this. It's just really, really mild. In other words, what's happening is we're comparing the down to the up, and we didn't get nearly the strength. So how is it that prices are supposed to go higher or more? I should say it this way. Possibly there are more expectations of it to likely go higher through the mind of maybe a trader's looking at it if the volume cannot exceed these highs. How did this just flash a signal right now? How did we just get a signal just now? How was I able to find this right here? We just broke above that high. Notice over here too, all this down volume that was created down here just got broken as we went above this level. So in other words, there was more volume coming up than there was going down. Okay. One way to say it, some investors might look at it this way, some traders, more buyers than sellers. Maybe higher expectation of that trend continuing. By the way, bring it in with the other stuff we just saw too, what we've talked about here, just made a new high. So all odds equal, a trader would say, yeah, that is a positive, right? Those that are utilizing it in this fashion. Now, the one thing on this script, the scan script that we did that is different is I did mandate something. I mandated that it has to be at least over here on the bars coming up, there has to be at least 5 red bars, because otherwise, if you were to get like a red bar, like a single red bar, and then a green bar, a red, a green, I mean, that's whipsaw. So we're trying to actually capture the entire trend. Now, notice over here, this one to signal the darn thing. This one over here, 100% would have signaled. Do we have 5 bars here? Indeed, we do. Did we exceed it? Indeed, we do. And how did price action go? Actually, really, really well. These larger type wedges that are being developed over here, and that's a pretty big wedge. I mean, that's one way to say it. It's a pretty big set of bars going higher, right? It's pretty big. That tells you the extent of the accumulation that might be um, occurring behind the scenes there to potentially lift prices higher down the road. You saw it over here too. Big move. Remember, we're not just looking at any one bar. These are helpful for sure, but it's more of, it was not more, it is an accumulation of volume over this range. That's what we're really talking about here. Okay. Now let's start sharing these so you got them. First off, not there, sorry, right over here on this chart, and then we'll go into the scan. So again, developed by Mobius. And this is just way, way cool. There wasn't really an explanation aside from accumulation, now you can come in here and you can take a look at exactly what when it's ascending or not. Notice over here, there's an HL2. Let me just put it this way. Let me just share it and I'll show you on the chart how well it actually ties in. Here, let's send that through. Again, not guaranteed for timeliness or accuracy, but here it is. So this is the wave, excuse me, volume waves right here. Okay, there you have it. So volume waves, this is for the chart. So the scan here in just a second. If I overlay the super trend on here, let's make sure we can see it and click OK and then OK again. Notice the timing of this when you're getting these signals in here. See, it's very, very similar. A lot of his stuff is quite similar, although, over here there was a lot of choppiness. Many of these are, I mean, they're very much tied into prices and price volume. Like right over here, you see the red come down, green bar right after. We got the green bar here, flip to red. There was we jumped across the midpoint of the range here. We didn't see that on, remember, this is an ATR based. The other one is looking at a midpoint candle over basically it has to be a 6 bar period from the midpoint break. And you can see it right here. Did you break above it? Yes, you did right there. You broke above the midpoint of this candle, and therefore you got a green. So there's a little bit going on behind the scenes, but it does give you, it's more, it's price related. It's not volume related, which is what we're talking about here. So let me just take this off and we'll go into that scan right now. So here is the scan, and this is actually no, let's go into it. So the volume bars, volume, wave scan. Okay. You get it only about, and this has a look back. I did build the look back period in here too, with it, so we don't have to build another one, a secondary one. But let's take a look at some of these right now. So there was ADM. I just highlighted it. I took it right off that list. Some others we can look at in here. And what I think is interesting too about this, and coming back to sectors and industries, where is the volume coming in? Not volatility, but where's the volume? Where's it been expanding? You can also look at it that way too. Let's hit some of these. What do we have? We got IP over here. International paper, right? Yeah, still international paper. Okay, excellent. Okay, in terms of what we're discussing here, what we're looking at. Here is a 6-month time frame over here. Um, we've got a situation right there where we're coming off similar lows, similar highs. What's different though about the similar highs and something that we would never be otherwise able to do is that the volume here was greater than the volume here, this volume, right? Coming down. You see it? We just broke that range right there. We just barely broke it within what I think I've got 3 to 5 bars. It won't matter because you guys can adjust it. What's different? Okay, so what is different? Keith brings up an interesting point. Why not use OBV? And we certainly can. I think what distinguishes this from on balance volume is that's just a total accumulation over an extended period of time. What this does differently is it allows you to assess what's happening with the downward move relative to the upward move. So it's much more sort of microscopic on that move, which also I think is really, really important for price patterns sometimes. Is this going to be, let's say, for example, I'll just throw it out here because we do look at, a lot of price patterns and things within what we teach here. But like, for example, that's kind of a measured move right there. Are we seeing some strength or maybe something to, garner a little bit more interest here? Yeah, quite possibly, because what do we have here? Well, if we start to see it break out here, maybe there is enough volume to support a rally. On balance volume would be something completely different. Now, it might still show bullishness, no doubt about it, but it doesn't have to. Let's pull it up while we're talking about it because I love the question, Keith. It gets us thinking because now we can kind of distinguish between the two, right? On balance volume or money flow. I'm just going to type in what you mentioned. On balance volume, they are almost they're like brothers. The on balance volume as well as money flow, they're very, very similar. The formula is different, but it is remarkable how similar they are. By the way, great. Look at this over here. But and it did take out those highs. We have a double confirmation. It doesn't have to be that way. It didn't have to be that way. And let me tell you why. Because if the volume over here was ultra strong to the downside, okay, and really pushed cumulative volume lower, and when it was time for the volume to come up, let's say, long term, uh, short term, let's say it breaks above that level if we're looking at volume bars. But long term, if your volume, sorry, it's taking me a second to flip the colors just to kind of highlight down versus up, but if it was so strong coming down, you had a lot of selling pressure, which you did have here. But if it remained strong, completely strong throughout that whole time frame, your unbalanced volume could be very, very low. This is saying, what about the turnaround potential now? What are we looking at here? So I think it's a little bit closer. Does that make sense? I'm not seeing too many questions come through. Tell me if you guys are getting this. It's important to know. I need to look in that chat and get a sense of where you guys are at here. But this is comparative volume. What was the volume on prices coming down versus prices coming up? If they're stronger on the upside, that could mean support to that underlying trend or what's within that trend, potentially the pattern in there too. The pattern, indicators, other things as well. We're not going to see this. We haven't seen this in other sorts of discussions that we brought up thus far. All right. All right. All right. Well, we'll wait on the comments in the chat. But there you go. There's on balance volume. So I think it's a good comparison to have on there too, just to keep it in there in play, to keep an eye on it. I want to focus in on this right now, but let's get that scan over there so you guys have it. So let me just share that. Again, think scripts aren't guaranteed for timeliness or accuracy, but let's share that scan. There it is, and you guys know how to put it in. So here we go. So this is our scan so this is the volume. Or the way that Mobius says volume waves. Volume wave scan. There you go. So we've adapted it into a scan with a look back period. But there you go. Okay, let's look at some of these others because they are fascinating here. But that's IP. NCLH. Wow. Okay, so the Norwegian Cruise Lines. Let's pull it up. NCLH. Okay. Potentially turning off that bottom right there. Look at this. So do we have us succeeding? We do. And so this range, where do we kind of start? Like right over here, volume down relative to volume to the upside. Well, we began to break above those levels. In other words, we broke above early. So did we come up with more force? Yeah. I mean, according to this, we could have. And that's hard to see sometimes when you're trying to dissect these little bars over here, right? There's a lot going on, but this one did it within the 3 bar time frame. Let's just double check. I might have gone 5. Remember, you guys, if you want something different, I did do 5. I gave it 5 because sometimes that volume can take a little while. We simply just took uh, his or her, not sure Mobius is, but Mobius's volume wave, and we put a 5 bar look back period into it, just the way we had discussed previously, right off the bottom. That's it. So let's continue though. The nice thing about this too, if you guys are looking for shorter term trades or longer term trades, dang, we have the periodicity flip right over here too. Just flip this right over here into, I mean, it'd be kind of fascinating to see what's moving on a 30-minute chart in terms of volume breaks. It's going to show you maybe some of those levels where there could be flag patterns, there could be measured moves off the bottom, inverted head and shoulders patterns. This is bullish in nature though. So park that in your mind, but there you go. Look at that. So what's fascinating here I find it fascinating. Look at this over here. We had a similar double top. From that point, we have not seen higher highs yet until now. And how did we get that higher high? We did it through volume. That's it. We did it through a totally different dimension. In other words, was a strength behind the scenes. So it could be an interesting one to watch. Uh, for traders just in general, not this stock, but just like these sorts of setups, these patterns, if you wanted to incorporate the volume aspect. So what I'm bringing up over here is look at prices coming up here, and could they come down? Sometimes they do. They rest on prior highs. But I'm just saying, over this long-term move, this is the first time we really started to break above prior highs and maybe hold those too. Let's hit some more. FWC was in there. I saw it. Okay, we did just barely begin to take out highs right here. Sellers versus buyers. Yeah, yeah. Check. See it coming down, and look at this. So sort of a similar kind of a low, similar lows. Watch this for the possibility of a turn. A lot of these, if you go back and look at them, and I went back historically, you'll start to see a big extension in the volume move four. Not in every case, but a lot of bottoms, longer term bottoms can form that way, right? Maybe possibly institutional buying. Remember, that's the one cool thing about volume is we're picking up potentially on institutional buyers coming in. So that could play an interesting role in that. Now, what else did we have? I think I saw SW Smurf it. Wow. Okay, so this is kind of like so I'm seeing some industrials in here. By the way, the Dow has been doing okay today. Let's hit this one and we'll go forward. We'll move forward here. But SW, ah, for the first time we've been able to get in this whole consolidation range, right? The first time we saw over here, buy volume exceed the red volume right here. So could this make it more interesting? Well, could be one you keep an eye on. You know what this kind of reminds me of a little bit too is the and I was just looking at this not too long ago. By the way, I accidentally just flashed this this over here, which are the dividend aristocrats. Because I did flash it, I just want to state that dividends can be discontinued at any time. Anytime I show dividends, I've got to make that note. I think many of you already know that, but just as a side note, dividend paying stocks can stop paying dividends at any time. However, this reminds me something similar to another ThinkScript code that we did over here. This was double divergence off the bottom. Remember that? Where you had RSI and MACD showing a divergence? We don't have the volume just yet. By the way, a lot of red. See that? When you see all this red, a lot of times a big continuation down. CTSH, you're getting double divergences off these. See how it's kind of similar to what we were seeing on the volume? In terms of the price action we were getting, not the volume specifically, but the price action. All right, everybody. Well, hey, let's see. Any last minute questions? I wanted to go through this and run through this with you so we could kind of take a look at this. I was thinking over here too, while we're at it, because I did share all that information with you, but let's look over here and let's just see, like say for example, that SW, that was one that was interesting, or actually ADM. ADM at the top. I'm going to go ahead and just put in a practice, excuse me, an example trade in here to kind of take a look at this. And what we'll do, it's kind of an expensive stock. We'll just do 50 shares on here. But this is going to be kind of potentially an indication of a continuation of the trend going up, perhaps. Okay, maybe holding a support level. We can put maybe look for exits down through here, but let's just go ahead and get a trade under our belt. By the way, if this was a swing trade, now it's kind of a longer term one, but I wanted to finish on maybe a trade over here. But look at this. So like a swing trade, if this is like a bit of a longer term, more like maybe an intermediate term trade, maybe less so swing, it is getting us up to that big 100 level, and maybe that's where the stock is marching towards with some volume coming in. You had that big volume base over here as well. I'm just going to put one in on here as an example trade. All right. So I'm going to go, in fact, let's do this. I'm going to go right click. We're going to go down here under buy custom with OCO bracket. I'll set one up a little bit higher too. Good till cancel on our two orders over here. And I'll set this up It's not going to be exactly at 100. Let me just go 95 for now. And I'll adjust this visually on the chart, which is a great way to do it, easy way to do it. Here's 50 instead of 100. I'm going to link this in. Always be mindful of the dialog box when you put these in. Keep watch on your buying power effect, etc. But let's send this through right now. And I'll pull this up on the chart so you can kind of see. And what we'll do is we'll go ahead and make that adjustment. Kind of a longer term flag is what it is. I'm not going to call it a swing trade. It kind of might extend beyond that range. But let's say if we were down here up to this point, let's measure it over here. I'm just going to duplicate it off right off the bottom here. We were close, but not quite there. I'm going to pull this potential target down here to this level. And in terms of the stop, I'm just going to put the stop. We're going to keep it kind of tight. I'm going to put it below the mid-range of that big bar right here, or just right at that mid-range, giving it a little bit of room to potentially go. Okay. All righty. And just a quick note too, while we're at this, to finish up here, because we did put that trade in, just wanted to state that in terms of the stops, because we talk about them, there's no guarantee that the execution of a stop order will be at or near the stop price. Okay, well, with that, got a trade under our belt. We're using a little bit of volume, and behind that, maybe some interesting trend here as well. All right, everybody. Well, hey, it's been good being with you. I think it's always important to incorporate other aspects aside from just price action itself. We've got a lot of prices we can look at, well, price patterns, indicators, just tons of stuff we've taken a look at here. But volume could also be that interesting additional element to keep an eye on. Be sure to give us a follow on X, and also do encourage you guys to follow us. Oh, there is my just posted this as well, a little video here uh, on some things, but there is my handle, and be sure to follow us on Trader Talks on YouTube. So it has been good being with you. You guys have a fantastic rest of the day, and thanks so much, Scott, for your help in the chat as always. Uh, and with all that, actually, let me just do one last thing. I'm just going to highlight where this is at so you guys could see it. Let's go over here and just pull this up. But this is our Trader Talks channel. If I can get to it. There we go. Yeah. Right here. A lot of great information. Scott did send through a couple of playlists from this class that we're teaching right now. That's last week's discussion. I can actually, I'll just copy that. Scott has already copied that, but you can find that right down here. But folks, a lot of great classes from a lot of great instructors here, and Scott being definitely one of those. All right, everybody. Have a great rest of the day. See you next time.